Okay, good afternoon out there to everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Good to kind of sort of see you. All right, so the purpose of today is kind of a last huddle, kind of get together and refocus some of you on, again, maintaining certain fundamentals of what you kind of should and shouldn't be doing over the next couple of weeks, and how to reassure you that literally you can still very well increase your scores, gain a lot more consistency, and as I said last time we were together, actually peak, get your potentially highest score even on the day of the bar. All is not lost. You haven't necessarily hit the ceiling, and we're going to go over some practical things you can do day by day in terms of practice sets, questions, review, blah, blah, how to kind of incorporate AdaptiBar, practice questions, and review into your kind of daily routine to peak on exam day. And again, everything I say is a generalization. You can fluctuate a little here and there. All of you have different life circumstance, family, work, etc. So again, this is just big picture themes to keep in mind, and some particular do's and some particular don'ts. And also, as I love to talk about, as you may know, the mental part of this. Because the first thing I like to say is when you get to this time of year, excuse me, you're not going to do a lot of law learning now. Whatever law you have in your head, that's pretty much it. Many of you are still trying to shove too much in there, and that's why you email me that things are beginning to fall out. I think I'm forgetting everything, John. That's the sensation of what happens this time of year. That's also your sign you're trying to push too much in. Right now, you're just trying to keep whatever's in there in there. Even with that, stuff's going to keep falling out. And so the goal for the next couple of weeks is just try to maintain. Can you always add a random rule here or there? Yes, I'll talk about how, but big picture. Your head should not be buried learning and studying. It should be reviewing, memorizing, so you can focus more on the practice of the questions and the reading comprehension. So day by day, where should you be? Excuse me, what should you be doing? As I said the last couple times, and even more so now that if you were doing a course, for most people that's over, the lectures anyway. If you're doing your own thing, hopefully you've finished your review of subjects, or you're finishing now, perfectly okay. But in addition to whatever substantive lectures or review you're doing, yes, I recommend a daily set of mixed questions in exam mode on AdaptiBar, not practice mode, in exam mode. You want to practice taking the test, doing one question after the other. My round numbers are 35 to 40, because that's about an hour and a half if you do the math, and then time to review. 35, 40 on average in exam mode. So you wean off of the high and low, I'm a genius, I'm an idiot if I get it right or wrong. You want to focus on that reading comp and the discipline of, you have to presume, you have to approach every question as if I read it consistently, like I'm always saying, read it the right way. Intellectually, I'm not getting them all right, but I'm confident if my approach is correct, one after the other, I'll get enough right. Because you know, again, what's happened the last couple of months. You do a question, you click the button, and there's that little hesitation about the green and the red, and you kind of either feel great or you feel terrible. Can't do that on the bar. So you want to maintain that consistency, one question after the other, so you can focus more on the reading, not the review. Those days are over. Because then when you do take the bar and you bubble in A, you're not sure if you're right. Mentally, you can't let some of those questions go, because you're still thinking, am I right? Am I right? That's distraction. You need to focus on every single question fully, 100%. So you want to feel with your practice over the next couple of weeks, you're doing them in exam mode, weaning off the yes, no, I'm right or wrong. And then after you do your review, when you do your review, remember, you don't be reading every single explanation of every question. Time is your friend. Time can be your enemy. Get the question right. Congratulations. Of the mistakes you're making, you see in the first two sentences of the explanation, you should know, did I forget that rule? Did I confuse the definition? If it's a law mistake, I jumbled up the rules, I forgot a piece of the definition. You write that down and you come up with your 2 or 3 or 4 rules a day. Those are the ones that you are reciting and pushing back into the front of your brain. It's a juggling act. You can't keep everything perfect. Something's always falling. But if you're acknowledging what's falling and picking it up and shoving back in there, so from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., constant repetition, whatever you're forgetting, that's your brain saying, these are the stubborn rules. I just need to remember and recite and repeat the extra 3, 5, 7, 9 times. You missed the question because you knew the rule, but I read too fast. I didn't spot the issue. I overanalyzed in my head. I picked the best legal answer, not the one more specific to the facts. Why did I miss the question? Reading comp. Didn't contrast the difference in the two answer choices. That's reading comp. You don't need the law review now. You need to focus on what you're missing. Contrast the difference in the language between C and D. Star that question. Study the difference in the wording. Learn from those reading mistakes. Let that be a sign to you. Okay, so when I miss crim law, I always know the crime, but I'm not really paying attention to the facts. When I miss the evidence questions, it just says, is the statement admissible? I'm not asking myself, is it character or impeachment? So when I get to the answers, I'm just picking the yeses or nos or admissibles or inadmissibles. He's right. I'm not really aggressively spotting the issue. I'm going too fast. Ask yourself why. Once the light bulb goes on, now you have a more specific focus on how to improve. If you're just doing questions, hoping it all works out, it usually doesn't, because you're not literally fixing the underlying mistakes. In addition to 35 or 40, if you have the time, or you're reducing it to 25, 30 mixed in exam mode, maybe, if you have the time, I recommend doing a small set, 5 questions in a particular topic. 5 tort today, 5 crim law tomorrow, 5 property the next day, just so you're giving what I call an extra dose of a certain subject, right? Because if you're doing, 30, 35 questions, you're only going to see a handful of each. So sometimes it's good to, and maybe you just want to do this with some subjects, maybe your lower scored subjects, just an extra small set of a single subject by itself, just so you're giving yourself a couple of extra questions in common law, property, or contracts, just for that balance. I can't do 100 because then I got no time to practice any other part of my exam. Remember, balance is also the key. So I'm talking to the universe of people out there that are doing a bar exam and taking both parts, the MBE and your writing, essay, state portion, etc. You got to balance. So if you're doing too many questions, you don't have enough time to practice writing, you're not going to do your MPT practice, which is you need to practice. Again, there needs to be a balance. What if I'm only doing the MBE, John? Couldn't I do a lot more? You could then do 35, 40, 40, 45, and then do a small set of one subject. I'm not pro 100 a day, because that's going to take you 3 hours, and then it's a whole day of review, and you're going to get exhausted. And it's very laborsome to do that again, right? You don't want to do the full thing right before the real thing. So day to day, I'm talking Monday to Sunday, 35, 40, 40 to 45, plus an extra set. That's a lot of reading, and you have plenty of time to review. And on top of the practice, on top of doing a mixed set, on top of a small set of a given subject, pick that random subject. Today's my tort day. From 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., I'm hearing myself recite some tort rules. You want to mix it up a little bit and do some tort in the morning and crim law at lunch and property in the evening, 5 minutes of this, 3 minutes of that. Not all or nothing, not the whole outline every day. I get in the car and I go to work, I'm reviewing some tort stuff. I'm driving home from work, I'm doing some crim. Random stuff. Play with the words. You just want to feel like, again, because in the exam, what's going to happen? You got like 700 rules flying around in your head. The more specific you are with your power of repetition. I'm keeping assault and battery for tort separate from crim law. I'm keeping everything separate. I have more of those buzzwords. The more of the buzzwords are at the tip of your tongue, you're reducing those mistakes. Remember, most people, this is anecdotal, not scientifically proven, just in my own experience, most people are within 10 scale points of where you would need to be in your jurisdiction for MBE. Within 10 scale points. So that's what, 6 or 7 questions, 7 or 8 questions, nobody really knows, but it's not 20 questions, it's not 1 or 2, but it's 6 or 7. Literally, we're talking one question per subject on average. So remember, if I could just get a couple of more rules per topic, a couple, And then I can focus more on my reading comp. You've got 15 or 20 more questions you can arguably get right. So the focus over these last 2 weeks is more on the practice while retaining the law that I have shoved in my head, knowing it's going to fall out. If I could balance some law review, the verbal recitation, a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, the more. You do that 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 days into the end of next weekend, you will feel 1,000,000% better. And again, I'm not supposed to talk about it, but as I say, for everyone out there doing UBE jurisdiction, all these buzzwords that you're pushing to the front of your mouth for MBE could potentially be helping you on some rule statements on essays too. Because on MBE, it's all the same, a lot of most jurisdictions, all the same stuff. If those rules get too far in the back of your brain because you're not pushing them and reciting them, you can't remember. And that's when you kind of scramble a little bit on your essay. So some law review each day. And again, I'm not about reading the outline, reading your card. Put them away. See what you know, because you don't want that shock to your system on the day of the bar that all of a sudden I don't have my outline next to me. I'm in the convention center in Florida all the time, up in Tampa with the students, and the lobby of the convention center is always littered with outlines and note cards in every nook and cranny because everyone's sitting in the corner reading stuff, and then they go up and there's nothing there. And I always feel like, boy, I hope a lot of those people practice reciting and feel good about their memorization, because once you go up there and all of a sudden you kind of feel vulnerable, hey, I got no card next to me. Wean off of the cards. Have them near you. So when you're forgetting, it's easy to put them back in your head. Absolutely. But stop the reading, because the reading is kind of a false sense of security. It doesn't really show what you really know. You forget, you get confused. I have my outliner cards next to me. So again, macro, big picture, I'm doing a mixed set, 7 days a week in exam mode, for sure. I'm doing potentially a small set, just a couple, in a particular subject to give myself the extra product liability question, the extra equal protection question. And whatever that subject is, that's my law review of the day. And maybe I mix up and combine a couple of subjects. The more that's juggling in my control, the more I feel better, more confident. Because what's the goal again? When I sit down and do those practice questions, I want to be so lasered in, so focused on the reading. I'm not thinking about the law. And more of those buzzwords like we did last time when we went over the answer choices, some of those questions. Use the words to help you. You want to feel like when you see the word reasonable, foreseeable, compelling, rational, property interest, compelling, you get my point. You see those words in those answer choices, you want to feel like that's procedural due process, that's strict scrutiny, that's negligence per se. You know what each is about. It can't be all, but a little more than it is right now makes a huge statistical difference. Next, what about the practice tests, John? How about those? Okay, you can't be doing 100 or 200 questions a day for the next couple of weeks. You want to do some of those OPE, the 100 question exams. Those are great. I think it's good for your self-confidence, for your timing, your endurance. Hey, I did sit for 3 hours. Sure, I would do those if you're going to do a couple of them. I would do them this weekend, early next Saturday, maybe do one Saturday and or Sunday, do one Friday night or Saturday, and do one Monday. I would not be doing them the end of next week. If you're going to do any of them, I would do them this weekend, early next week. So I have a chance to review. I can keep practicing, because to me, I'm more about how are you doing over 5, 6, 8, 9 days of doing 30 or 40 than one shot of 100. Too many of you put too much pressure on yourself with the one practice exam, one practice set, and that number is some sort of declaration of how I'm going to do. It is not. It's a much better reflection if you're doing 40 a day times 7 days, that's 280. That's a much better reflection of where you are for consistency and accuracy than one 100 question set. You follow? So if you're going to do them, I don't think you need to, especially for you guys who've been at this exam before. You know you're going to make it through the 3 hours. You know how it feels and all that stuff. But sometimes you still want to do it for your own peace of mind. Perfectly fine. But don't get married to do them, because what happens when you do too many of them? You do what I call you chase the stats. Oh, I got 64, John. I want to get 65. I'll do another one tomorrow. Oh, I got 64.5. Let me do a third one, because you know what I'm saying. You want to get that extra. God forbid you're at 61. Oh my God, I'm freaking out. Let me get another one and another one. And again, you become the bad gambler at the casino, like I was, hit me again, hit me again. You're just chasing stats. Reading comp is the issue, how I am reading. So if you're doing more of that mixed set 7 days a week, so you're not tiring yourself out, then by the end of the week, your consistency is better. You're not burnt out. You're not as exhausted. And you're drilling those fundamentals I'm always talking about. Issue spotting. What am I looking for? What do the facts say? What is each answer about? Connect the dots, shut up and pick it. That it gets drilled in more consistently. That's what will become second nature, and you'll hear your voice say those things on the day of the test. Don't chase numbers. The goal is better reading comp, more consistency. You with me? That's huge. The number matters, of course it does. But remember, in Florida, you need to get a certain number to pass the MBE. In most of your jurisdictions out there, there's no magic number you need to pass. You're just, again, I'm trying to get as many questions right as I can to get the average of the writing, blah, blah, to get my score. So there isn't some sort of cutoff. If I'm at this number, I fail. If I'm at this number, I pass. You're just trying to gain more confidence each day and gain more raw questions correct. That's why I'm saying more law you feel better about could literally turn into a bunch of questions. More consistent reading comp by doing fewer but over a longer period of time is better. And again, if you're just doing hundreds a day, you have no time for writing. You're going to burn out, number one. And then on the actual day of the MBE, you're more stale because you're just burnt reading questions. And what I also talked about when we first met is that sometimes you do too many questions too quickly. They all begin to look the same because many of you are piling up hundreds, if not a couple of thousand questions at this point. And then what happens? Like the cliche goes, there's only so many ways to ask these questions. So that all of a sudden you begin to remember the hypos begin to look familiar. Oh, I think I know this one. It's A. Wrong. What? Because they changed the facts. You're doing your worst reading comp because you're beginning to anticipate where the hypo is going. And now on the day of the bar, that's what's going to happen to you. You react too fast based on where you think it's going rather than the reading. So again, between now and the bar, the real improvement is just maintaining the rules, more repetition, but really improving and gaining the consistency with the reading comprehension. And that is a consistency over time, not just one or two practice tests. That is really, really the key. Good? Good. What if I'm really lower, John, in a subject area? Okay, we'll talk about that for a few minutes. You still can't not do what I'm suggesting because too many students, again, who are terrible at property, then bail on practice and they take 3 days or 2 days to review property, or they stop doing a mixed set and they're just doing tons of property questions. Again, always be asking yourself, why am I missing these questions? If you know, I think I need to go back to my property outline, John. I think I got overwhelmed. I really just need to get back to basics and focus on more rules. Okay, then take an hour or two. You need 3, whatever it is, take it and do a good boot camp review. Don't read 80 pages. You're trying to focus again on the definitions, the buzzwords, because that's what you see in these questions. Not theory, not argument. So if you know you need to do it, but keep doing the mixed set on the other 6 subjects or the other 5 subjects. Because remember, I said last time, if there's a couple that are lower, if you over-focus on the low, the high ones are going to start going down because it's all about the maintenance of the reading. So you can't do all property for 3 days and then come back and do a practice set because that's not going to be good. You're going to be shocked and really freaking out when when the overall number starts to go down. So again, that's why I say it's a balance between the two. I got to maintain some practice of all and bring up the rear. But again, like I just said, don't chase the stats. Because if 3 years of law school and practicing now, or if you've taken this a couple of times, whatever is not as good as the other stuff is not gonna, you're not gonna all balance. It's not linear. So if property was always a bad subject, if contracts, if Civ Pro was a bad subject, it's not all of a sudden gonna become good. You're just trying to make it less bad. And that's from refreshing and feeling more confident with more rules and then reviewing your mistakes. First thing I would do after I review my law in that lower subject is I would go back on AdaptiBar and look up past questions in property, last 3-4 weeks. those reports you can get from past questions of that particular subject saying, now that I feel better with the law, now that I did a good boot camp review of my rules, let me take a look at some of these mistakes I was making. Yeah, this one. Oh my God, this was tenancy in common, not joint tenancy. What was I thinking? Now that I know the rule, this is easy. Oh, that was an easement. Of course it's enforceable. What the hell was I thinking? Oh, it's assumed the mortgage, didn't take subject to the mortgage. Of course, it said it. I just didn't remember the rule when I did it. Now I see it. The more confident you are with some of those rules, the mistakes look more obvious. What do people do? They do a massive review of the outline, then go do 50 questions in property. Remember, you're not going to have 50 questions in property or any other subject on the bar. You're going to have one, and then there's a tort, then there's a criminal law, then maybe another property one. So don't do massive amounts of that one or two bad subjects, because like I said last time, I can't do more than 2 contract questions before I start glazing out, because you can't read clearly when you're looking at that kind of dry material over and over and over again. So I recommend you do your law review if you need to, then go look at your mistakes and see how obvious the right answer looks upon reflection. Now that I totally see this, oh my God, what the hell was I thinking? This is good news. Don't beat yourself up. This is actually great news. Now I really feel like, hey, there's another 15% of these questions I can easily get right if I see them again. Now, then you want to go try some to build your confidence? Go ahead. Small amounts. 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7. Again, not running through them. Now that I see it, do a few. Then you can reincorporate property or whatever the subject is into the mixed set, because you're trying to simulate, quote unquote, what the bar exam is like. You're not doing a property test, you're doing an MBE exam. There's still only 27 property questions. You with me? And remember, I keep saying, as far as the math is concerned, wherever your low subjects are, wherever you deem your weaknesses are, you're really only talking about stealing an extra 2 or 3 questions from that subject to get to a good number. Low 60, let's say, very high 50. So the difference between 50% and 60% in most of these subjects is a couple of questions. That's it. So again, don't go crazy with something that's a little weaker. If you see on your sheet, on the subject by subject breakdown, hey, I'm a little weaker in mortgages, I'm a little weaker in jurisdiction, hey, that should also tell me I need to focus my law review in that area. Then when I go review my questions, I can go try to select those little subtopics to find those kinds of questions that maybe were causing me a problem. That's good. You're terrible at future interest, you're terrible at remedies and contracts, bleep that, leave that alone. It's not worth it. There's too many other areas you could probably steal some questions from that would more easily raise your score. Be practical. I like to call it be surgical. Let me go in and find some of these areas, fix those areas, not the entire subject, then rebuild my confidence doing a small amount of questions, and then I reincorporate it into my overall set. Now I feel like, hey, I can go on there and actually practice, and I'm going to be okay. Especially if you're the student that's also taking a written portion of your exam. There has to be that balance between the two. For most jurisdictions, you can't do amazing and bomb one and pass. To get the average, you need to be fairly balanced. And whether it's an essay or MBE, the rules are the foundation of that. As far as the emotional stuff, which is huge. It's all a mind game from now on, okay? Like I said, the law part, that's over. Whatever you know, you're just trying to keep. I'm sorry, if you miss a question in your daily practice and you say, I forgot, I didn't know that. Now that I look at the answer, now I think I can understand that. I said way back when, sometimes in February, away from all the lectures, the studying, the review of my outlines, sometimes rules that you didn't get when you were really practicing hard the actual subject matter. Now you do a random question, you say, you know, I think I can actually see that now. I couldn't before. You can add that to your quote arsenal. You with me? But that doesn't mean you should go back into the outline and start trying to learn 30 new rules that you never understood before. So sometimes just with the sheer practice, you can say, I didn't really understand what that was, but now that I see how it applies, if I saw something like that again, I think I could see it. I'm going to take a screenshot. I'm going to take a screen. I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to star it. I'm going to study that hypo. I'm going to take a little note. Now I see what it looks like. Now you have another question. but don't overdo it with the quote, trying to learn more law. Here, listen to me. Nothing you can do about the stress. You're living with nausea for the next couple of weeks. That's just the way that it is. There's nothing you can do to fix that. What you can do to minimize is what I talk about. One of my many mantras for this time of year is as follows. Nerves are good. Fear is not. Everyone's nervous. I go to the convention center as I did in Tampa. I'm nervous when I get to Tampa and when I'm in the damn convention center. Okay? Thank God I don't have to take the test. So I know about being nervous, but I'm not afraid. You were nervous with every final exam you took in the last 2 years, even though in your head you knew you can kind of BS your way through it. But it's a test, nervous. The only time you were afraid is if you knew nothing and you were just going to try to BS your way through it. There's a big difference to me between being nervous and being afraid. So the clammy hands, the nausea, the stress, nothing you can do about that. How do you minimize it? To me, by again going back to, I'm going to put the blinders on, I'm going to get a little pissed off. I always say in February and July, the best emotion is anger. They own me right now. I'm not going to let them own me. I didn't go through 3 years of law school and do all this stuff and bar prep and all these questions and just to let a couple of circles on a Scantron get in my head. I know enough material. Get that edge back. I always like to say every 3L in America, has that arrogant strut about them around campus. They mock the 1Ls because they're so idealistic. You know what I'm talking about. Then during bar prep, within 2 weeks of bar prep, they're bumbling insecure 1Ls again. Please, I just want to pass, John. I don't want to flunk out. This is what happens. You got to get that edge back. Got to get that edge back. And for my repeat takers, even more difficult to do it. I know. I lived it. I know what I'm talking about. Get that edge back. It's just some stupid questions. It's just a couple of rules. It's basically an open book test. They can't trick you if you read the question correctly, if you're focusing on the facts. So that's why John believes so passionately about the repetition and the recitation. If you prove to yourself, not to me, not to your mother, not to anybody else, I'm proving to myself I actually am retaining more law than I did. I'm actually reading better. I'm reading more consistently. Those are the only two things you need to do on the day of the bar exam. That's how you reduce the stress. Nerves are going to be there, but I'm going to feel slowly more confident. I can do this. I will do this. I'm proving to myself that I'm using real bar questions and I'm practicing why I believe the practice exam set is so important every day. I'm doing a mini practice exam every single day, and I'm reinforcing the law. This basically guarantees that my number's not only not going down, it can actually peak on exam day. Fear. What's going to happen in April, John? What's going to happen in May or June? I don't know. Who cares? I have to focus on what's right in front of me. They call it mindfulness exercise. You can't worry about what's going to happen on the exam. Will I pass, John? What's going to happen if? What if I don't? What about right now? Because all the what if and what happens distracts you from the fact pattern right in front of you. And that white noise, as I call it in here, makes you read badly. Then you get a bad score, and then you get more pissed, and then you can't fall asleep, and the whole thing starts all over again. So whatever's going on, I like to say to everybody, have a pity party for yourself once a day. And I mean that sincerely. Get it out. You feel bad, nervous, cry, whatever you need to do. No one understands the stress like I do. Trust me, I know. Your parents are going, rah, rah, you're going to be great. Your significant other, rah, rah, you're going to crush the bar, hee, hee. They don't understand what you're going through. I get it. I do. So I'm saying the stress is real. I'm not saying it's nothing. Get it out. Then when you sit down at the laptop and you're going to do your practice set, put the blinders on, get your hat on, get a little pissed, get your MBE battery on your shoulder and say, damn it, I'm going to read the questions the right way. Not overdo it, not go too fast, just slow and steady and read the questions like he taught me. I know how to read them now, and I know more law. That up here, reducing the clutter so you can focus. Being in the present, as they say, will definitely improve and maintain your reading comprehension. Sunday, whether you like the score or not, whether you like the game or not, who cares? What's the point? Wasn't much of a game anyway. As great as that guy is, as great as the Chiefs are, as great as Mahomes is, and I think he's unbelievable. I do, and everybody knows I'm suffering with my Jets, right? I haven't known about this game since I'm 5 years old, so it doesn't matter. I got no skin in the game, but I really admire Mahomes. It doesn't take a lot to even make the greatest lose their confidence, second guess, look around, not perform. Did you see him? I'm huge on body language. I'm huge on the eyes. You can tell if someone's confident or not. I like to joke when I'm in the Tampa Convention Center. I stand against the wall. I watch people go up the escalator to the testing room. You could almost tell just by the way they carry themselves whether they're going to pass or fail. You look at those guys on the field. Chiefs are always, we're going to do this, right? Everyone said close game. They're going to win in the last couple of minutes because they know how to win. Up here, mentally, they're more confident. They don't make the mistakes. All of a sudden, what happened? They got hit in the mouth, and all of a sudden, Mahomes had the happy feet. He was a little nervous. He was moving around. He didn't have that strut. Even the greatest, when they're pushed a little bit and they get off their game, the whole thing falls apart, and he just looks like the Jets all of a sudden. There's you. You do great work. You go in that room. It just takes a couple of questions, God forbid, for some people to, quote, fall off the track. Don't let that happen. Do not let that happen. You work too damn hard, too damn long to let a couple of weird, stupid questions get in your head. You're not getting all 200. And you know what? The bar is not letting you get everyone right. They're not. There's going to be a group of questions no one in the country knows what's going on. In fact, and again, this is just anecdotal. I have no way of proving this. They don't say it. This is just from me being in a convention center every 6 months. There seems to be one of the sessions, morning or afternoon, seems to be easier and harder. Meaning some people come out of the room for lunch and they feel like, John, oh my God, it was like I did another AdaptiBar quiz. Jesus, I feel like I got 90 right. And then some people are out in the morning and say, John, where were all those questions, man? There were some weird questions. I don't know what's going on. And then by 4:30, it flips. The people that were happy seem a little off, and the off people feel like, I think I got 95 right. So one of the sessions, one of the books seems to include slightly more of the weirder worded ones. The two answers are a little more closely related. It's more difficult to spot the issue. They're just giving questions no one's ever even seen what the hell's going on before. Those 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, it's what I call the minefield. They're just throwing those in to see if somebody will lose their confidence, will get off track. I've been doing this a long time, and people will go in there thinking, I got this, John. I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling incredibly confident. And they come out at lunch. I did it again, John. What did you do? I got caught on 5 or 6 weird ones on question 30 to 35. I fell behind on time. I had a minute to go, and I had 15 to fill in. I just lost it. You can't let 1, 2, or 10 ruin the other 90 or 95. It's all a mind game. Just like the real quarterback. When there's nothing to do with the ball, what do they tell you to do? Throw it away. Let's live to play another game. Poise, confidence, maturity. Manage the game. You need to manage the test. I do every question the same way. Some I can't get right. Some I won't know. But I can, listen to me, I can say, I don't know what the hell's going on in this hypo. But if John's yelling in my ear right now, he would say, I've never seen this before. I don't know what the hell's going on. Every law graduate in America can say, based on the facts, line 4, that's what this is really about. I don't know the name of the rule, but basically it's about that thing up there. When they do that, what are they going to give you? 1 answer that talks about that thing. And 3 answers are going to be totally irrelevant and garbage. What is your job? To leave the room at the end of the day and say every question that I read, whether I knew it for sure or not, I picked the most specific answer to what that fact pattern was talking about. So if I have no idea what the hell's going on, I'm just stuck. Don't run to the answers and pick the best legal theory. I'm going to pick the most specific. So if I don't know what's going on, but line 4 is basically what's going on there, and there's only one answer talking about what line 4 says, you shut up and pick it. Connect the dots. I'm not saying you're going to get all of those right, but you're going to maintain your consistency. You're going to maintain your timing. You're not wasting 6 minutes on anything. You're not skipping anything. And you have a reasonable way to acknowledge, I did the test the right way. I minimized my mistakes. And I'll steal a couple of ones I even didn't know. Because once you go down what the real professors call the slippery slope, once you start going down that rabbit hole, I don't know what's going on, so maybe I don't know what a battery is. Oh, I didn't know the last one. Maybe I don't know what a larceny is. You know how some of you how it goes. You lose your confidence on 2 or 3, you lose it on 10 or 12. You can't. You have to maintain that consistency. That is not easy. That's why I'm here talking about it, because nobody else does. It's here and it's here. I'm going in with those blinders. I can feel nervous. I'm not afraid. I know enough law, not all of it. I'm going to get enough questions right. Not all of them, but I'm going to have the same approach. And if I reduce the silly reading mistakes, if I know a couple of points more of law for each topic, that's way more points than I need to know. And then when you do have to make the educated guesses, I don't know what's going on here. I'm going with A. What John says, shut up and pick it. Trusting your gut, that's going to be based on confidence, not insecurity and desperation. And the more questions you do out of confidence, the more you trust your gut, the more you shut up and pick it, the more points you are guaranteed to have. Nerves are good. Fear is not. Focus on your confident knowledge of the law, your confident knowledge of how to read, why I'm picking A, B, C, D. I maintain a balance of good practice every day, some more, some less, so I can balance everything else. I do some law repetition and recitation every day just to feel the words more in the front of my mind, so nothing is so far in the back that on the bar I can't think of what it is. And even though there will be some rules you will forget, if 5% more are at the tip of your tongue, that's going to turn into a lot more questions, and better they're in the front than all the way in the back. Stick to the fundamentals. Have a little bad session for yourself every day, but then shake it off and get pissed off. Anger is the best emotion, because if you're worried, you have that insecurity. If you're angry, you get that edge back, and you're going to read with a purpose. You're going to pick with a purpose. And if you go in there pissed, you're more focused and you will be more confident. Be proud of your work. We are. Use the questions the way they're meant to practice taking the test, not just say I did 2,000 of them for the sake of doing them. Get the law, do the good reading, shut up and pick it, good balanced approach. And by the way, but lastly, because I always get this question, I apologize, I forget to say it. When you take the MBE on Wednesday, if you're doing the writing portion, if you take day 1 of your jurisdiction, I think the last day you do fresh MBE questions is the Sunday before the bar, so that Monday you can really focus on your essay rules, your writing, etc. If you're not doing that and you're only taking the MBE, yeah, then you can do your last set on Monday, give yourself that mental break on Tuesday. What should you be doing the night before or the morning of the MBE? Should I do a quick set, John? Hell no, obviously. I personally love, some people say, should I review my outlines? I'm not a big reviewer of outline because you should be pretty confident of the law, you know. Some people have 1 or 2 subjects. They just need that little last minute review in the hotel. That's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong, but not till 11 o'clock. Watch some TV, take it, relax. It's a long freaking day. It's a long 2 days. You need your strength, your focus, your concentration to sit in that chair, because like we've been saying all along, it's all about the reading. But if you can flag or star on your AdaptiBar program some of those bad, silly reading mistakes. I can't believe I did that. How did I miss that? Stupid, I missed that word. Those things. If you create like a little a set of 5 or 10 of those the night before, the morning of, before you leave to go to the room, let the last thing your brain sees is reviewing some of those silly, I can't do that. I'm not going to do that again. If I see that word, I know what the answer is. I am not going to read too fast. I'm going to slow down. If the last message in your brain is, I can't believe I made those stupid mistakes, again, you get a little pissed off. You get a little edge back. Use some of the silly mistakes you've made in the last month or so as incentive, as motivation. Hey, the last message I'm sending to myself is, this is pretty much a reading test. I'm not doing that. And then when you see some of those questions or those like kind of questions on the bar, you're going to be much more, yeah, I'm not doing that again. I'm going with A. You will recognize whether it's the real, it's not going to be the same question, obviously, but it's the same kind of mistakes, the same kind of things you're prone to do. I'm not doing that. I just looked at this last night. I looked at it this morning. Damn it, I'm going right in and I'm going to fix those mistakes. That's how you peak on exam day, rather than just flailing away with a lot of law. So use some of those bad, silly reading mistakes as motivation and incentive, as teaching moments for the night before or even the morning of, and just saying, I'm going in there and damn it, I'm going to trust what I read. I'm going to trust what I read. That is ultimately the #1 thing. So last time, slow reading, Issue spotting, shut up and pick it. Trust your gut. We're here for you. Thanks for hanging in for the last couple of weeks. Hope this helped. Get in there with an attitude, strut around that convention center, have that pissed off look. So if someone looks at you and says, what do you look so upset about? I'm an AdaptiBar guy. I know how to take this test. I'm going to do it. And they're just going to be scared. You help yourself with the curve because they're going to fall away. And you walk in there and you feel like $1,000,000. Go in there with a purpose, stay pissed off, read really well. And we're looking forward to hearing good news from you guys in a couple of months. God bless you. And I look forward to seeing you guys soon. Take care.